Okay, so here I am back at it to do basically the rest of season one of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. When I first started doing this a couple weeks ago or a month ago or whatever, I was going to try to be a lot more specific on episodes, going by each episodes. But I just do not have the time to run through each episode individually and have enough to say about it. To take the notes needed to do that. So, for the sake of this, I'm just gonna run through the rest of the season, which is like episode 27 to 60, just the basic things that I noticed that stand out to me, and highlights, and just changes I noticed as the show went on. So last we had, Tommy's part of the team. It's in the early parts of the show where they're still adapting the actual Sentai footage from Ranger. So Tommy can only show up at the final fights, like for the Megazord and stuff, to use the Dragon Zord. Uh, Again, as of last time, he pretty much always had like a valid reason why he couldn't join the team. In some of the episodes like Wheel of Misfortune, and I think Calamity Kimberly, you have him tied up to a tree, right? And then he gets knocked out by like the fan and is like on the bed in the command center. Then there's another episode where he's also tied up in a net. Besides him getting knocked out in the command center, eventually waking up, at least when he's tied up to the tree in the net, he eventually gets himself out of those situations. Those are things that did stick with me when I went through Mighty Morphin the first time as a kid, like actually start to finish, and was like, wow, Tommy got captured. But now doing it on a rewatch, I'm like, okay, Tommy got captured, but he gets himself out of these situations, which is good. So at least he is able to do that by himself. Another thing that stood out to me was the episode The Rockstar, where Tommy's not present, despite already being part of the show, and is in the credits. It's a good Jason episode just because he's with his cousin, Jeremy, and I think Jeremy destroys the monster in that episode, so he has a solo kill in the show. So not bad for a character who's a kid and in only one episode. But with that said, going over the Green Ranger, it is a bummer how he can only be brought up at the end of the episodes, so you don't get a lot of actual time to see him fight in the suit, unless it's out of suit fights. But there's plenty of that to see. Again, you have the Green Candle episodes where he does lose the powers, so it's just crazy to think how Tommy was only supposed to be in the show for this long and is quickly written out. The Green Candle, though, is still a lot of fun to watch to this day. You really feel for Jason failing to get the Green Candle, and it's cool, though, that the powers are given to him at the end, which they make good use of a little bit. You have Jason using the Dragon Shield for 2 episodes after the Green Candle, and you can rack up another solo monster kill with Cardiotron. Jason kills by himself with the Dragon Shield on, right? So that's 2 solo Jason killing monsters. One being with the Dino Zord, and now Dragon Shield. And I think Kimberly has two solos basically. Gotta double check. And then, like I said, Jason's cousin has a solo kill. But I do wish we got to see more of that. I understand they were restricted with Sentai footage, but it is cool seeing Jason rock the Dragon Shield. And it's only, I think, 2 times, but it's still pretty cool to see. That brings us to Doomsday, which was supposed to be the original ending to the show if it was only for 40 episodes. And then that's pretty much the end of the actual Sentai footage. The episode after that, I don't know if that was Sentai footage or Ju 2, but then you have the second episode with Pudgy Pig, which is just awfully reusing footage from the first episode with Pudgy Pig. And even watching that, in high school, middle school, going back to middle school. Yeah, that episode always just stood out as lazy, as they just had no footage left. But then you get to the Jew 2 footage, which you do see a difference in some things. Even if you go on Power Rangers Wiki, the Megazord fights look different. There's a much faster pace of the original footage compared to the more slower, clunkier pacing of the new footage. I do like the episodes, though, with that new footage because they don't have to work around putting in the Sentai footage to make it work within the story. Now that the fights are specifically made for them, there's no random like Japanese stuff in the background. They try to make it pretty neutral so it can fit. There's a lot more morphed fights that just go on longer, that just don't abruptly cut. So I did notice that difference a lot in the back 20 episodes of season 1, that those morphed fights are a lot longer, a lot more enjoyable. The pacing just makes a lot more sense. So I definitely found myself enjoying that a lot more. And then you get the return of Tommy and return of an old friend. This is when you start to get the soundtrack to the show really starts to hit. With Go, Green Ranger Go, a lot more rock songs playing in the fights, which I know wasn't there right away, but it really took me this viewing to realize that that doesn't start to happen till the extra batch of season 1 episodes. So again, there's a lot of cool music in Power Rangers, and it's just interesting how they didn't have that for the first 40 episodes. Well, they have cool music, but not to that same extent. But Return of an Old Friend, you get Tommy coming back, which again, what's going on with the Green Ranger is pretty much what drives the story forward in these first season and a half of the show. So him coming back is cool. Again, you have the American footage with the floppy shield, and even then, before he gets his Dragon Dagger back, he has a Blade Blaster when he's fighting Goldar and the putties for the power coins. But overall, Tommy comes back. There's, one episode where he doesn't morph in his return? I think is it Grumblebee, right after? Then there's another one where he's not even present. But what I did find interesting, when he does come back, they still don't have that much footage of him as Green Ranger. Even in his return, they still write around him not being with them at all times. And there's always an excuse why he joins later. Which, again, I don't think I picked up as much when watching this years ago. But I just find that interesting how that trend continues. Again, I would say Tommy's personality does work as the loner. Jason David Frank said he's like Wolverine. Again, he's not Wolverine because he's not. All these characters are way too of the goody goods for that to be like an anti-hero. But Tommy definitely, I think, works best as that loner. He's kind of like the outside guy of the friend group. He is friends with everyone, but he's always off doing his own thing, being very dedicated to karate, doing the tournaments, teaching classes. I really like that about Tommy, just doing this rewatch, how he has his friends, but he really likes to do his own thing. That's what I found interesting. Even the episode when they try out for the football team, how he's nervous about the football team, even though he's clearly athletic and everything, but just his training in karate specifically is so ingrained into him that doing another sport is difficult for him to adjust to. I just found that interesting thing about Tommy, just doing these episodes. But I would say Tommy, his character works best as that outsider. He has this relationship with Kimberly. But what I think makes him cool is he is kind of the guy by himself, doing his own thing. The rest of the team are his friends, but there's just a part of him that's just kind of on the outside. Another thing was, there's an episode with him on doing bench press, and they only have a 25 on each side. Come on, give my boy a little bit more weight than that. At least put a 45. up on each side. But at least this time, it was clearly like I would think it was a 45-pound barbell, and they looked like regular 25-pound plates. Again, going back to the episode with Jason on bench press, way back in the beginning, I don't know what type of barbell that is. I don't know what type of plates those are. It's really hard for me to make out. Even the bench itself was like a cheap one with his feet up in the air. The bench they had later on that Tommy was on looked like a typical commercial gym bench press. So at least that, was good that Ernie got an actual bench press in the gym by that point. Let's see. But yeah, as Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 1 continues, still have a lot of fun with it. It's 60 episodes, and again, it's a lot of repetitiveness, but it's still a lot of fun to watch. Also, again, as that season goes on, Bulk and Skull's bully persona definitely goes down as the season goes on. I was surprised by how the end of season 1, they're not really that bad anymore. They're not as aggressive to the team as they are in the beginning. I thought that was going to be a thing that lasted throughout the first season, but really by the end, they're just more dimwits than bullies. They are not as aggressive as they are in the beginning of the show, which I would think would be hard to do because the characters are so funny and likable. You can't make them too harsh, which I think is what probably had to happen. Why there's a pivot in how they act and everything. Other things, especially once you get to the final 20 episodes, the unmorphed fights definitely seemed a lot better, a lot more faster pace with everyone. Especially seeing Billy fight the putties a lot more confidently is something I remember noticing as a kid. As those episodes go on, he becomes more confident in those unmorphed fights, which is pretty cool to see. Again, that kind of goes back to what I like about the episode early in season 1, where he keeps training in Jason's karate class. I think that's what works about Jason as like a mentor to him, pushing him like that. And then in terms of Rangers, I think, again, Jason and Tommy, like I keep saying, they are that guy that, they are the serious guy, those two. The best fighters of the group, obviously. But in terms of just being the most important specifically that can't be replaced, it's Billy. Billy's the one that always has like the intellect and ideas to get them out of things, which none of the other ones would be able to do besides maybe Trini. But definitely in terms of just you can't be replaced, yeah, it's Billy, which is fitting because he's the only original one to make it through the whole show. But just doing this rewatch, seeing how he's constantly the one to come up with ideas to get them out of something, it shows how valuable of a member he is of the team and how much he should be appreciated because of that. But with that said, I think I just went through a good chunk of season 1 right there. I wish I could have more time to be more specific about it. But those are just my thoughts, just blasting through everything. And now I'm on to season 2, and the beginning of season 2, when you have the original cast still there, is one of my favorite parts about Mighty Morphin. But we'll get into that another time.